What's up, YouTube? Welcome to the Magic Dads Podcast. My name is Rugley, joined here today by Pintyhet and Zoe G. What's up, everybody?
Hello.
Hello.
Thumbs up.
No, okay, so we were talking before, and Zoe made a thumbs up, and like her meeting thing did a whole bunch of fireworks. It was cool, and we've been trying to get it to do it since then, but it's not doing it now.
No. Sad.
So, we are here today to talk to Zoe about the deck that she made the top 4 of the Lawnlander Championship Series qualifier with, and that is Turbo Blood. So, Zoe, please describe for us, in your own words, what is Turbo Blood?
Turbo Blood is a 4-color sans blue mid-range-ish deck. It's like between aggro and mid-range. It uses every single source of colored fast mana that you can find. So 3-pointed Moxen, Chromox, Mox Diamond, and including Lotus Petal, Elvish Spirit Guide, and Simian Spirit Guide, which is not common for other more fair-based strategies. Mm-hmm. And it just uses the very high card quality from the 4-color deck. It is a base Abzan deck that splashes red, so it can take advantage of black's hand attack, white's for the efficient removal and tax effects, and then green's overall consistent through tutors and mana dorks. And then red just provides that power boost because red's Strength in Canadian Highlander is just the most broken cards you've ever seen.
Yeah, red best color, please confirm.
No.
He took the bait.
We know the best color.
Okay.
Definitely.
So, this deck kind of this deck kind of evolved from a different deck that you were playing, like, I don't know, last year sometime. You want to kind of tell us about your process going from that to what it is right now?
Yeah, so pretty much since I took a little bit to get on this list, but pretty fast when I started the format, I landed on this Abzan Splash Blue mid-range deck that was using the splash for Atraxa and Natural Order, and was a much more like grindy mid-rangey deck. But I always felt that it could, during the early turns, it could get into a position where I really liked, and then just petered out because none of the cards could actually kill my opponent.
Yes.
So
closing the gap,
And so I was looking at all these red cards that were being printed, and I thought to myself, what if I just remove Natural Order, remove the blue cards that are 2 points, and so I don't get 3 Moxen, I only get 2, and don't do a super great job of killing my opponent consistently, and instead put in red cards, which only cost 1 point right now in 4th Airlingas, and just, instead of the deck inconsistently with large creatures that I don't want to play and only want to put into play through Natural Order, just whenever I draw a red card, I'm like, cool, you're dead now.
Yeah, okay, cool. Red best color. Okay, I'm going to bring the deck list up here so that the viewers at home can see it. There it is. This is Turbo Blood by Zoe G. We are going to start at the top. Zoe, you said you wanted to talk about Ridden 6. Take it away.
Yes. So when I was first building this deck, I was thinking it was a lot more aggro. And since Ridden 6 is on the splash, I'm like, okay, Ridden 6 is a slower card. I'm playing it on the splash. And then once I'm playing it, it's a really good effect. We all know this. But it doesn't kill my opponent. But as I was playing through the deck, I thought, okay, it's a strong enough card. I'll just put it in. And I mean, it's just so good that it just warps the game around it. And it is deceptively not as hard on mana as you would think it is, even though it's a 2-color 2-drop that is in my splash color. As soon as you play Ridden 6, you just pick up a fetch land and then you fix your mana for the rest of the game. So that was kind of the last barrier for me to include it. And every single time I've drawn it, it's been great. Killed many dorks with it, drawn a lot of fetch lands with it. Just
Stefan has killed me with this card more than one time.
Yeah, it hits people. You can hit opponents.
Yeah, you should probably pay attention when you're at 1 life and your opponent has Renin 6. Anyways, yeah, so about, drawing cards. Every time that you put Renin 6 into play, it feels like Ancestral Recall. And at minimum, it's Ancestral Recall. And then if you get to keep it for a couple of turns, it's like Ancestral Recall every turn until they kill it. So are you saying that like Renin 6 shifted the deck towards mid-range, or that like the deck is more mid-range than you thought it was, or are you saying that like Renin 6 is just so good of a card that if you're in red and green, there's no way you're not playing it?
I think it's both. I think the deck was a lot more mid-range than I initially thought.
Sure.
I was mainly focusing in on the fast mana aspect, where I'm looking to use this one-shot fast mana to get like a white plume into play on like turn 2 or maybe even turn 1, and that is disgusting. And it's like, oh, that's an aggro-based strategy, but the rest of the deck is a lot like the Absent base is still like a mid-range deck, and Renin 6 just is so good that you kind of have to try to fit it in if you can.
Yeah, getting to recur your land drops, like it's ultra proactive, right? Getting your land drops and then absorbing a hit, or playing it, killing your opponent's mana dork so that they don't get to have the play that they had planned out. It does everything you want it to, and the ult just sort of wins you the game if you have a lightning bolt.
Sure.
Like
the ult is not particularly good in this deck compared to others, because
sure.
we don't have those red burn spells that can go face. But I mean, if we're getting there, we're probably winning anyways.
Yeah.
Are you not on lightning bolt?
No, Zoe does not have lightning bolt.
So
the red is the splash color. There's better removal.
Here's the thing with red
than bolt, right?
Red it has so many good cards. Even beyond here are a list of cards I am not on that are in red. I'm not on Fable of the Mirror Breaker. I'm not on Ragavan. I'm not on Lightning Bolt. I'm not on
Fury.
Oh, there's probably some more. I'm not on Fury.
Yeah, I noticed.
That one's a little bit more obvious. I'm not on Chaos Defiler. If you ever played with that card, you know how insane it is, especially if you can tutor it for it with Eladamri Skull. That's where it gets pretty nutty. There's probably more amazing red cards that I'm missing. But yeah, I'm not on
red
Indoraptor, which
red is the splash color. So basically, we want the red cards to just make them dead real quick, right?
Yeah, or just be like, you have to. A lot of the red cards are later in the mana cost, which is why Ragavan and Lightning Bolt isn't as good, because you want to play those early,
right?
And you often want your early drops to be
set
just
up
how
the
this deck is formatted. It's not really, the early drops are not in red that often. Like there's only technically 3, but really only 2 cards that are red that are 2 drops or less.
Sure. Right on.
Makes sense.
Moving along, next up is one of Stefan's favorite planeswalkers. It's Grist the Hunger Tide.
Very good card. It's a 1/1 bug.
It is a 1/1 bug, which is the main reason it's kind of in the deck. Being able to fill that planeswalker slot in both the card it is in the deck, and then also Eladamri Skull and Green Sun Zenith. Yeah. Just having that flexibility is really important. But once again, it's a 3-mana planeswalker. Upticks makes a guy, -2 kills a thing, and then the ultimate doesn't matter. But actually, even though I could use it, I've never actually used it. This deck it's not creature light, but it's not like 40
I don't know,
plus
30, 39. That's quite a few.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then like some of them gets exiled through course of play. It's
sure.
Yeah, it's not.
Renin 6 ult, or sorry, Grist ult, another thing that Stefan has killed me with more than one time.
You don't even need that many creatures in your bin. Like if they just die throughout the course of the game,
right? Like just like dealing your opponent 5 or whatever is sometimes good enough. The Room of the Initiative says yes. Also, Grist like incidentally puts cards in your graveyard, and you have Reanimate in your deck.
Yep.
Yes. This was before, just to that point of. This was when I was on the Splash Blue version, but
oh sure,
there was one draw step that I drew Grist. I had to reanimate a hand, I think, or like I had Grist on board and was empty. I drew Reanimate. I plus Grist. I milled an Atraxa, and then I reanimated the Atraxa.
Oh, I think that was me that you did that too.
Maybe, I don't know.
And I'm here for it.
But
You'd remember that.
I know, I distinctly remember this happening of me playing against Zoe. Yes, I think that might have been me.
Oh my god. Hey,
But yeah,
to be fair, Zoe does a lot of messed up things to a lot of people.
No, it's fantastic.
all the
I'm here
time.
for it. I love Degenerate Magic, especially just like you're in your 100-card singleton deck and like the card you want to mill is on the top of your deck with the reanimated hand. It's like, I don't know, man. It's, what do you call it? It's kismet.
It's fate.
But I mean, even just like milling over a white plume to unearth,
Yeah, sure.
as well, it's just like, I'll take a 1-mana white plume.
Hell yeah.
Why not? Sure, if it's on the menu.
Up next is Best Doggy in the Multiverse. It's Comet Stellar Pup.
Not the best dog.
Yeah, this
Bad
card
dog.
is this card is nuts.
Yeah, this card's not okay. Same thing with Menkin Buu. They both kind of fill the, oh, we're on turn 4. Here's the red cards I've been talking about all game.
Yeah.
And the game just, when you play them, it completely just revolves around them now.
Yep.
Comet is a lot more RNG based, but sometimes, sometimes you roll a 3 with only a dork in your graveyard. Sometimes you roll 3 6s and 4 or 5s in a row or something.
Yeah, so I
that's
didn't
just so good.
play this card for like, I don't know, 6 months or something. And the very first time, well, okay, so for the longest time I was like, every time this card's been cast against me, it made squirrels. And then like that was all that it did, and it just never seemed insane to me. The very first time that I cast it, I rolled 3 6s, and I was like, oh no, honey, you don't play this card. You don't play this card because like there's a median or an average or whatever. You play this card because sometimes it just goes infinite with itself.
I've checked with a couple judges, and they don't like when games are decided by die roll.
Well, that sucks. Maybe they shouldn't be a judge.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
I mean, also play draws. That's also an exception. Speaking of play draw, that is a very important factor with this deck. There's a lot of hands that if you just go first, you can either dash it to the left, turn faster, you can get out an accelerated threat, or can guarantee your hand attack hits their like fastman or their turn 1 threat.
Yeah, I could definitely see that with this deck more than a lot of decks. Like going first is so much better than going second all of the time because you have those hand attack spells because you want to get out there in front of them. And like there's other decks, like there's tons of decks that play like a bunch of Moxen and then these crazy 4-drops. And like if you ever get a hand where you have 2 fast mana sources like Dork plus Mox or like double Mox or whatever it may be, and you get to play one of these 4-drops on turn 2, somebody send an ambulance for your opponent, not you.
For not me.
Those games just feel unlosable. Moving on from Comet, it's another friend of the petting zoo, the Hamster Boy Menkin Buu, Timeless Heroes. We've spent a lot of time talking about this card, and it has been around for, I don't know, like a year at this point or something, and we're still finding out new things that you can do with this. Stefan just told me yesterday that like you can let your Buu token legend rule, which lets you have revolt on your fatal push.
Yep. Or trigger Morbid for Tragic Slip, or
who's playing Tragic Slip? I mean, bravo, round of applause.
Hey, Tragic Slip has killed many an Emrakul.
I'm sure it has. Yeah, Tragic Slip. Who? I did not have that in my bingo card in 2024.
It's 1 mana.
Yeah, but it doesn't do anything.
What are you talking about?
It kills Ragavan, I guess.
So many things kill a Ragavan. What is your point?
Y'all are jumping on me like this is the worst card ever. No.
Yeah, but Menkin Buu, basically the same card as Comet. If you play this thing and your opponent doesn't kill it, it usually kills them in 2 or 3 turns. Red cards, best color.
3 max, right? Because it's attack
unimpeded.
For 4.
Yeah, it's 3.
Yeah, attack for 4, attack for 7, and then attack for 7, throw at their face for 7.
Okay, let's move on to the creatures. So you've got several mana dorks in here, and that is something that we've already stated is a super duper important part of the game plan here, is to get ahead on resources early, and giving you access to mana dorks in addition to Moxen makes that so consistent.
Yeah, I'm only because of we're on Lotus Petals and Spirit Guides and Crow Mox and Mox Diamond. We're only playing the 4 best mana dorks.
Yep.
And for the most part, except for birds, the rest of them all do something else, which is very important because when you draw them in the late game, there's actually utility there.
Yep. 100%.
And especially because the Spirit Guides being 2/2s over, like, instead of running 7 mana dorks, we're on
you can't kill it. You can't kill it with a Tragic Slip.
That is, it's also two power is 100% more than 1 power, and it's very relevant in like late game races where, or just like spelled out where, if you draw this 2/2, that's so much more relevant than some random 1/1.
Yeah, Gray Ogres have won a lot of games of Magic. So, like you said, just the 4 best ones. You've got Birds of Paradise, Deathrite Shaman, Ignoble Hierarch, and Noble Hierarch. Your deck also has a couple of these, like, well, I don't know what you call these things. The land cyclers from Lord of the Rings. I don't know. Does this cycle have a name? You're playing Generous.
Just the land cyclers.
Yeah, you're playing Generous and Troll of Khazad-dûm.
Yeah. So these cards, it is a way to reduce the land count.
Yep.
Which is very important. And there are going to be games that you get to 6 mana that you actually have a real threat. Also, with the addition of Surveil lands, this allows you to get a Surveil land, which is a big reason I added the Surveil land, was because these can go get them if you still want to land, but
you don't
necessarily need the mana.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think those overperformed from what I saw. Like, whenever my opponent played one, I was like,
Luke,
they're getting so much value.
If you watch Luke's feature matches, he got some insane value out of Surveil lands in his feature matches.
Schaefer dropped quick, but he was doing very well with them. I remember him like just churning through his deck a bit.
Okay, and then also in the 1-drop slot, you have got a Hex Drinker. Little snaky boy beatdowns. I don't know if we need to say a ton about this card. It really just gets the job done.
Yeah, I mean, this is, importantly, it's a 1-drop card to find off a Green Sun Zenith, and especially the play pattern of turn 1, Mox land, get a Hex Drinker. Next turn, you can immediately level it up to level 3, and it's a 4/4 pro instant.
Oh,
that play pattern is very common. And then just having this grow threat at such a cheap mana slot, as you'll see, there's a lot of threats that on their own can grow to the point that they're just like, you have to answer them.
Yep.
And that's what you get from this 4-color card quality, is every single threat is a must-answer one.
Yep.
So compared to Gruel Monsters, where it's a lot more, I'm going to play these 3 creatures that individually might not kill you, but together they will. This deck is a lot more about, this one creature can kill you if you don't kill it, and you have to do that 3 times over to figure out.
And Hex Drinker makes it difficult on them too, right? Once you level it up to level 3, it has protection from instants.
Yeah, I found out real quick that Solitude doesn't really care. I leveled it up to level 3 3 against Travis in one game, and he was like, "Sure, that's fine." And then
Bud, you sound awfully confident there.
Yeah, I went to level it up to level 4, and he's like, "Cool response," and I was like, "Excellent, good, glad."
Speaking of protection, you also have a Mother of Runes in here.
Yeah, card's pretty good. I'm not on Stepmom, Giver of Runes.
Yep.
It is unfortunate to say that I don't think that card is game warping enough in 4-color. And also, the deck has somewhere around, I think, like 12 or 13 potential 1-drop plays between Mana Dorks, Land Cyclers, Mother of Runes, Hex Drinker, Hand Attack, turn 1 removal.
Yep.
And then the adventure side of Kellen Daring Traveler, which is a personal favorite.
And Mom protecting herself is like the biggest deal, right?
Yeah, that's the big one.
Yeah. I don't know if it's like an effect that you necessarily even want to draw more than one of in this game. Like if you're happy if you drew the one, but then like drawing additional copies is like kind of whatever. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah. Also, like, Stepmom dies in so many ways, and
Yeah, sure.
It also is like sometimes your opponents can just ignore it, where
Mm-hmm.
mom is such a lightning rod of removal that if they remove it, I'm like, cool, you're not removing my next thing that I'm playing.
Right.
If they
Yeah.
path it, I'm like,
Haha,
cool, I'll go.
It's still protected my other threat.
Yeah.
Okay,
And like
so
using it to get in, steal back the initiative, steal monarchy.
yeah, there is always the whole
Yeah.
oh you're F6'd. Okay, cool. I will kill you because you cannot block this thing now.
Yeah. Kill you with a giant creature. Like
Moving
that's sometimes
on to the 2-drop slot, this is where things start to get really interesting. You are playing some interesting cards that no other decks are playing, and then you're also playing some I don't know, fan service cards like Dark Confidant. Have you
Oh
ever
my
just
God.
have you ever
Gas.
just domed yourself for 6 with a Troll of Khazad-dûm and felt great about it?
No, because my Dark Confidant, I recently got this Double Masters foil copy that has been treating me very well every single time I've
Perfect.
played it. So yeah, just spend more money and then your cards are gonna do
Exactly. Obviously. So
You heard it here first, folks.
shout out to David Pound real quick. We used to grind the PTQ circuit playing Modern all the time, and he had his beautiful. He still has beautiful Boomer
Yep.
Jund deck. It's all foiled out and everything. It's a gorgeous deck, and that man has never taken a damage off of Dark Confidant, not once.
Well, nobody takes damage off Dark Confident, Blake.
It's always a land on top.
Dark Confident doesn't deal damage.
True. Moving on, you got this Iara's Oathsworn. This is one of those cards that no other decks are playing.
Oh my god, this deck is killed. This card has killed me.
It is a 2/2 for 2 with Menace, which like we're already on rate and doing better. But then also when it deals combat damage to a player, if it has fewer than 4 +1/+1 counters on it, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. And then if it has exactly 4 +1/+1 counters on it, you can search your library for a card and put it into your hand. So I gotta ask the question: have you ever demonic tutored with this thing?
Yes, actually.
Oh hell
I've-
yes!
I was playing against Omniscitive, and I found a Legolas's Quick Reflexes to be able to, on the next turn,
Oh, that's gross.
use it to kill their Murktide.
Oh, that's gross.
I think you almost tutored with it against me, but then I died.
Yeah, so the play pattern with the card is 3 damage, 4 damage, 5 damage tutor. So that's already 12 damage. It's done your opponent. And at that point, if you're tutoring, you often won unless the game's like been very grindy with your opponent gaining life.
Yeah.
Or you use a way to give it more +1/+1 counters to jump the curve.
Yep. I was gonna. Yeah, you've got this. The Nyx card. The Nyx card's Canker Bloom. So
What
that's
did they-
that's a way to
What
put
did they
another
give
counter on it.
Black these bears? Black shouldn't be getting these cards.
Absolutely not. Black needs good cards. So you've got a Canker Bloom that can proliferate, which also has got the added utility of being able to destroy artifacts or enchantments. You've also got this NT Cynical of the Sun. That'll put some +1/+1 counters on it. Everybody knows about my favorite card from 2023. Didn't come until the very end of the year, and NT is insane.
Yeah, I was in my initial builds, I didn't splash for him, and then someone was like, "No, this is actually just like almost a better Leia," and I'm like, "Okay,
it is a
sure."
better
Yeah.
Yeah, coming down a turn earlier is insane. Being one cheaper is insane, even if it doesn't attack right away. Being able to grow other creatures is huge. Giving them trample, fantastic.
That's the part.
It is
That's
the
the part I take umbrage with.
That is the part. I agree.
Everybody forgets that. You're like, oh, it gives the counter, and then like, no, also trample, and it doesn't have to attack.
As if that wasn't enough, there are more ways to put +1/+1 counters on it. You've got this Kellen, Daring Traveler, who has the adventure side of making map tokens. Map tokens let you explore, which put +1/+1 counters on your creatures. Zoe, I know you were really high on this card when it first came out. I have actually never had this card in a draft, and I've certainly never played it in Constructed. So please tell me about Kellen, Daring Traveler.
So already, if you don't have anything on turn 1, it gives you a turn 1 play by making a map token, which is like, it's really nice, and sometimes you get to make 2 map tokens off of it, but you're not really counting on that. The big part is that it's a 2-mana 2/3 that when it attacks, surveils 1, which is kind of great, and it does actually more than that. If you hit a creature that costs 3 or less, I have yet to do that. I think maybe I've done it once when I've already known the top card, but even then, it's like it just fixes your draws.
Yeah, he's got
and
like
allows you to keep
Mega Explore when he attacks.
Yeah, and like if you're light on lands, he can help you find lands through the map tokens or his attack trigger. If you're light on action, he can turn through your deck to either draw you your action or get rid of like the meaningless lands on top during the attack trigger.
Yep.
And also being able to explore once and hit to a 3/4 is huge.
It is, yes.
This creature blocks a Fury very well.
Oh, it does. You're totally right. I did not think about that.
You don't mind trading with a Fury with this thing.
Oh yeah, you're so happy if you do.
Yeah.
This card just does so much. Also, my favorite part of this is that you get to Caracas loop with it, and it is so bad.
I watched
so
you do that to Ryan Favor at FNM
so
one night over and over and over again. I would have conceded so long before he died.
He just let you do it to him.
As if that wasn't enough ways to put +1/+1 counters on your IR as Oathsworn, you've got this Luminarch aspirant right here. That'll put some counters on it.
Yep, just another growth threat. These growth threats are kind of like the main reason to play the deck is because every single threat is going to grow to the point where you have to kill it, or it's going to amass enough advantage. Like even like Kellen or Dark Confidant that don't grow its power, scale your card advantage throughout the game. So far, the only card that we've talked about on this list that doesn't quite do that is Canker Plume. And Canker Plume's actually a recent addition. I only added it because I wanted to have a creature that could kill artifacts and enchantments off my Green Suns or my Eldamri's Call.
Yeah.
And it has overperformed in that.
It's
just...
Yeah, when people can play Underworld Breach in your format, you should have like I don't know, at least 1, if not 5 ways to kill enchantment in your deck.
I mean, you've got Beseiju. Wait, you're not on Beseiju. Yeah, you just have.
I am on Beseiju.
Yeah,
you are?
Beseiju's in there.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, after alphabetical order, Stefan. Come on.
Yeah, duh. Moving on, we've got a Malok in here. Another sweet thing to go get with a Green Sun Zenith for 2.
I hate that.
Yeah, this card is kind of a last-minute addition. I was on Chaos Defiler before it, but both cards kind of enter the battlefield and kill a thing. Malok is just cheaper.
Sure.
Yeah.
And can do it for cheaper, and it's not always 5 mana, but
Yep.
it can be 5 mana. This is the kind of the last red card in the deck that I'm floating on whether I should be on it or not. And that's just to kind of tell you how good these red cards actually are, because Malok is an insane card, and it's like it's barely good enough to make the cut for these red cards.
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Moving on, you got a Mosswood Dread Knight, the card that just keeps coming back and drawing you more and more cards. So a number of these things that we've talked about specifically in the last few minutes or so have been sources of card advantage in one way or another, and Mosswood Dread Knight does that really, really well.
Yeah, it's just another card that's more than one card. Also, a lot of these cards that we've talked about, not all of them, but a lot of them are just creatures from Standard that they've printed. They've had this design philosophy that to make 2 and 3 drops just the most cracked that they've ever been.
Yeah.
The 3-drop slot has a lot more competition, but for 2 drops, that is kind of the biggest gain from this deck compared to like Gruul or Naya, is that your 2-drop slot is so good that you also like, if you don't have a dork on turn 1, that like the play of turn 1 dork, turn 2 3-drop is it's less felt to not be as consistent as that when you just have turn 1 whatever play of the like million options you have, and then turn 2 like a nuts 2-drop. It's like, sure, it's not as good, but then you're not all in on the dork because if the dork dies and you can't play the 3-drop.
Sure.
It's just by itself making all of your cards more consistently good.
Yeah, that is
relying
something,
on other things.
Yeah, that is something that I've noticed about the 4-color decks is that the 2-drop slot goes up immensely. Because like you would think 3 colors you should be good. You should have, easy. It'd be easy to find 100 cards. Well, I mean, you kind of struggle in those 2-drop slots. It seems like with the 2 and 3 color decks. The 2-color decks specifically, really struggle with the 2-drop slot. And when you're in 4 colors, you've got like several different options. So you're going to end up cutting some of the 2-drops because
This is a
they're all
great
so
mock
good.
start card. Like land mocks 3 power trample creature go.
Yeah.
And then
Or
you
just
can sort of
adventuring it.
Yeah, that's
Just like you with mock straws, you have the time to adventure it and just get that card advantage going right away.
I like the idea of having 2 mana held up and just swinging into bears and daring them to block so that you get to like recur from your graveyard later. Just like on that turn, you're like, well, block it if you want, and then I'll draw a card and then it'll come back.
We've also got an Orcish Bowmasters, of course, because you'd be crazy to not play that card. A Scavenging Ooze, very similar. We've got this Scrounging Deathclaw, which I guess is actually Tarmogoyf.
Yeah.
Next
Tarmogoyf
up,
is
sorry,
actually a secret. Tarmogoyf is a secret growth threat because this thing I've seen it quite a bit in my past few matches, and it just grows to a 4 or 5 way too often. And a 4 or 5 is like a 3/4 is near unkillable. A 4 or 5 is just like you're not killing this thing in a way that you're happy about.
Yeah, none of the cards that we play outside of the 3 white cards that do it will kill that.
He also can pick up a Shadow Spear real good.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That giving him any kind of evasion and lifelink, he gets out of hand. And I think that's like the big thing. Is like these 2-drops just kind of run away with the game if you don't do anything with them. I dig that.
100%. Sun Gold Sentinel. This is a card that I've only seen out of the mono white deck. So it's a 2-mana 3/2. Okay, we're already doing pretty good. When it enters the battlefield or attacks, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. As if that wasn't enough, it has Coven. That's the thing where if you have 3 creatures with different powers, you can do it. So 2 mana, choose a color. Sun Gold Sentinel gains hexproof from that color until the end of turn and can't be blocked by creatures of that color until the end of turn.
There's so many words on this card.
This card has a ton of words.
Yeah, I've always thought that this is like the next 2-drop hop I'm gonna cut, but I've been really impressed by it. It just does so much. Against like the breach decks, you just empty their graveyard. Against stealth spells, get rid of their graveyards. And then blanking removal or being able to attack through blockers really well. 3 power is actually a very common power in this deck, so it's surprisingly hard to get the Coven to go off, but once you do, it's...
Oh, sure. I could see that, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of 3 power threats.
Up next, we have, well... It's not Maleva. Maleva? Is that how you say it? Yeah, it's not Maleva, but we finally got a Maleva card.
The 10th district hero.
It is a 2-mana 3/2 that has like the, what do you call that
2/3.
card? Sorry, 2/3. What do you call that? The
Figure of Destiny?
It's like a figure of destiny where you collect evidence and eventually it turns into a 5/5 that gives other creatures indestructible. So, this is my favorite when I get to do this. Have you ever turned this into the 5/5 before?
I don't think I have. But just going to the 4/4 for 2 mana, collect evidence 2 is actually pretty easy.
Yeah.
All of these 2-drops that need to be killed to trigger it. And there's a lot of ways to go 1+1, and then also Once Upon a Time is a free way to trigger it. Any of your land cyclers trigger it very easily. A lot of easy ways to make this into a 4/4 with Vigilance, and from there you're like, that's your 2-drop with very little investment. You're happy with that already.
Yeah, 100%.
There's also a lot of liabilities involved with a legendary creature, as we all know.
No, we love legendary creatures. Canadian Highlander is just where you shuffle your commander in, right?
Don't.
I did. It's too late. I already did. Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, of course. Again, there's a lot of storm decks that I don't know that exist.
Any blue deck,
basically any blue deck, actually, though, right? Yeah.
If you play this on turn 1 against a Jeskai deck, it is near a free win, and you have 8 ways of being able to play this on turn 1. yeah, this card is one of the reasons to go on all that fast mana, just because playing this on turn 1 versus turn 2, it is a completely different game.
Uh-huh.
Just play it and then hit them 10 times.
It's not even just against Jeskai though. Like 3/4, if not like more than that, of the decks are playing 3 Moxen at least, if not 4 or 5 Moxen. And so like if you play this on turn 1 against those decks on the play, and they're like, oh, well, now my hand doesn't do anything.
How do you feel about spending mana on those mocks, huh?
Yeah, huh? Not so good.
Does not feel good.
This next card in here is not a new card, but I definitely think it's one of the more interesting cards that's in here, and it's Tide Hollow Skolar. So outside of obvious things that we could talk about, this card, when we were talking about Wrenn and 6, you had mentioned that having those 2 colored pips on turn 2, you would think is difficult. And this is only the second card, I think, since Wrenn and 6. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Moloch.
Sure.
Moloch is sort of up in the air.
That how are those 2 pips on turn? 2 pips on turn 2. Yeah.
Yeah, this is that is a cost to this card. The main reason I'm on this over other effects like it is because I do want the 4 hand attack spells, and Dreadfuge is not Inquisition of Causality.
Oh, thank you. Oh, so finally somebody that agrees.
Don't play Dreadfuge.
Other than Stefan. Stefan also agrees.
Don't play Dreadfuge. It sounds like a good idea, but it's not.
And at least if you have to play Dreadfuge, can you please just pronounce it Fugue? Because I think it's funny when people do that. Sorry, talk to me about Tide.
Speak on this.
So, yeah, we want 4 hand attack effects, and we get through Thoughtseize, Duress, Inquisition real fast.
Yep.
And there's not any other 1 black spells. So you kind of have to turn to this other slot. You have to turn to this 2 mana, like Brain Maggot type effect. And in my opinion, Tide Hollow Skolar is the best one, despite being 2 colors, for the main reason of it's a 2/2 and not a 1/1.
Yep.
Cavern Bat, it's 1/1 flying lifelink, don't care. Dies to Red and 6, dies to Forked Bolt while killing another thing. It dies way too easily. It doesn't put pressure, which is then very important, because these types of cards need to apply the pressure as well, because you're spending that extra mana, and 1 power just does not provide any threat whatsoever. As mentioned before with the Spirit Guides, 2 power is infinitely more than 1. It's actually just only 100% more, not infinitely, but it feels infinitely more because it allows to be an actual threat that can put your opponent on a clock with something else instead of just like not really helping out the clock at all.
Yeah, I appreciate the mentality.
Did you consider like Kitesail Freebooter in this spot?
That would be the second one I would be on because it's 2 toughness.
Sure.
But I did consider it, but not hitting. Like I want to be able to hit anything with this effect if I'm playing it on turn 2, because oftentimes with Tide Hollow Skolar, it's best to take the thing that they were going to play the next turn, not the removal spell that kills the Tide Hollow Skolar.
Understood.
Because against some decks, they can just go, okay, whatever, that's a removal spell gone, and just play their 3-drop next turn, where this is like, no, I take your 3-drop, and then you have to kill this.
Yep.
It gets rid of the removal spell anyways, and it delays them a turn.
Yep. It's like
and Tide Hollow Skolar cannot do those plays as easily.
It's kind of like it's almost filling that Mother of Runes role in addition to being a hand attack spell. It's like protecting a card that you play in the future because they have to kill the Tide Hollow Skolar to get their thing back.
Yeah.
That's it for the 2 drops. Moving on to the 3 drops. This is where, as Zoe put it, the competition gets hard, right? You're in 4 colors, and we all know that there are really, really, really powerful 3 drops in this format. So,
some would argue that is where the deck starts to take off in a lot of ways.
Sure. First one is Anointed Peacekeeper. This card has a lot of text. So it's a 3/3 with Vigilance, as if that wasn't good enough for 3. But then when it enters, you get to look at their hand and choose a card name. The most important thing here is that you don't have to choose one of the cards in their hand. You just name a card.
Yep.
And then spells that they cast and activated abilities from sources with that name cost 2 more.
Yeah.
Unless they're mana abilities. Yeah, this card is... it just overperforms every single time. The body on it is surprisingly good. Being able to threaten their fetch lands in hand, if you get this out early and be like, oh, you kept a 2-land hand that one of them's a fetch land that you have yet to play. Oh, I'll name the fetch land that you haven't played yet.
Yeah,
and just like
that's gross.
Completely like, yeah, this card can be effectively a wasteland sometimes on a creature that's not like a 4-mana 1/1. But then also sometimes it delays their like crucial play next turn. It just this card does so much.
Yeah.
It's surprising the time I play it.
Naming Deathrite Shaman because it's technically like its mana ability isn't really a mana ability is always fun. Like,
oh, can you wait? Is that a real thing?
Yeah,
so
because
Deathrite Shaman's
mana
ability is not a mana ability.
Yeah, it targets a card, so it is not a mana ability.
And then the resolution gives you a mana.
Target. Yeah, they can't target.
Yeah. So you can interrupt your opponent's Deathrite Shaman by activating your own Deathrite Shaman to exile the land, and they don't get the mana.
Yeah, I guess I never thought about that before because that is a thing that you can do, huh? Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Up next, we have Archon of Emeria. Now, I'm starting to notice a trend. There is a lot of disruption in this deck, and that's really what you kind of get from the white and the black cards primarily, right? So, like,
yes,
this deck. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's kind of like what the Abzan base was really good at always. It's really good at making sure your opponent has trouble playing the game, but they always struggle with killing. And we're going to see that some red cards that we're about to get to, they kill your opponent pretty fast.
Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. So what I was going to say was, like, this deck is blending some of the best elements of all of these colors together in this one thing. And I think that it's really, really neat. Let's keep going here, though. We've got everybody's favorite new card is Broadside Bombardiers. I mean, card's nuts.
Hate it.
Really good with map tokens.
Yes.
Off Kellen, off Sentinel of the Nameless City, which we're about to get to. Yeah, this card is really good with Moxen, really good with Lotus Petal, that if you don't need the mana anymore, it's just the shock. Yeah, this card is pretty nuts. Nothing more to say about it.
Right on. Of course, we have mentioned them several times already. You've got the Elvish Spirit Guide in addition to the Simian Spirit Guide as a source of mana now.
Pretty good Grey Ogre.
And then the Grey Ogre mode is nothing to underestimate. Leia the Blade Reforged, my favorite card from 2022, who Inti kind of took away the spotlight from, but Leia still very, very good.
Yeah, this card just it's like going it grows so fast. It draws you cards in the process as it grows. You put a Shadow Spear on it, your opponent cries a little bit. Your opponent hits you with their Ragavan. This grows off of it. Yeah.
Leia pretty
this card
good.
Just
Lord Skitter. So this is a 3-mana 3/3, and whenever another rat enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 target card from an opponent's graveyard. So he also makes rats at the beginning of your combat step. So
not with haste, so not exactly a Rabble Master.
Not exactly a Rabble Master. This card
Rattle Master.
Goblin Rattle Master.
Yeah, this card is. I always go back and forth on it. Rabble Masters are really good. This one dies real easily.
Sure.
Dies to Lightning Bolt, dies to Lightning Helix. But just having it pressures the graveyard. It's another incidental way to do it.
Yep. While also killing your opponent.
Yeah, while also killing your opponent.
Those tokens
the
are pretty
rats
good
just
with Broadside
provide
Bombardiers as well.
Yes, that's another way Broadside is good in this deck. And those extra 1/1s, if you have any other somewhat reasonable threat, they just feel so bad to let the other threat through and to kill the 1/1s.
Sure, yeah. A little bit more disruption from Opposition Agent.
This is so much of that. Like you had an Orz of Hate Bears deck that was like very oppressive.
That was like the original deck, right, Zoe?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
The
the
original
first
deck
deck
was
I
Orz of
actually
Hate
played.
Bears. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. I didn't say that one for too long, but yeah. Weirdly enough, this deck is kind of like if you push together Gruel Monsters and that Orz of Hate Bears deck.
That is that is what I told. Like, I think I don't know if it was on Saturday after Saturday. It was I don't know. It was I became obsessed with your deck for about 36 hours, and I think that was one of the things that I said was that it's like Gruel Monsters and Death and Taxes shoved together.
Yeah.
I really like it. Up next, we have Sentinel of the Nameless City. This guy makes a lot of map tokens. It's also got
Card's very good.
It's Vigilance. Hello. It's also got 4 toughness.
It grows to a 4/5 super easily, and every single stop point matters, especially for toughness. Like 1 toughness dies super easily. 2 toughness, like okay, it like kind of lives. 3 toughness, it like difference between 2 and 3 is actually not as much as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Yeah. Because a lot of the burn effects are 3 damage.
Right.
Yeah.
So just having your growth at start at 4 toughness and then be like, you have 1 turn to answer this before it's going to grow into a 4/5, and then you're never answering this.
And then you're never going to kill it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a reason that a lot of people like started playing Flame Slash and now are just like, maybe we need bigger burn spells.
Right. Now everybody's got these 5 toughness creatures. What are we gonna do?
Shieldred's a real problem, bud.
It's time for I can't think of the name of the card. It's 2 mana. It's 5 damage. Combust. It's time for Combust.
No.
There is an endurance in here because we don't want anybody to have a graveyard ever, right, Stefan? Absolutely no graveyards.
I hate this card. I actively play with this card. Zoe, it's just like everything you want, right? Like when you need it, you need it.
Yeah, this card's surprisingly hard to cast with double green.
Sure.
Just because the rest of the deck is not built around getting double green, but it's just so good when you need it. And it's just another way to hate on graveyards. It's between Lord Skitter, between Sungold Sentinel, between Scavenging Ooze.
Yeah, this is like the best one though, right? Pretty sure.
Yeah, this one's like the best one.
Scavenging Ooze, Death Rate Shaman, those both are really good, but Endurance is real good.
This is the one that
Endurance gets the job done.
Yeah. It's like if your opponent's on Storm, this is the one that you're like, okay,
that's the one I want. Give me that one.
Against my slushy opponent, I had Sungold and Endurance. And Canker Bloom. So
perfect. They just couldn't do anything. Sorry about your deck, bro.
Yeah. Just made their Gifts Ungiven in hand look like a 4-mana do nothing.
Oh my god.
No. I hate it when that happens. Speaking of making problems for Storm players, here's a Thalia Heretic Cathar.
This one does. Oh.
This one, it always surprises me because I'm like, it's 2 toughness. It can't be that good. But then your opponent just goes to play land. It's like, actually, no.
White Plume Adventurer, of course. And that does it for the 3 drops. This isn't like, there are a lot of initiative creatures in here, I guess. But it's not like a dedicated initiative deck. You're not playing like the Ephemerate and the you don't have the Fable and you don't have the what is that other enchantment? Touch the Spirit Realm that you commonly see in the dedicated initiative style decks.
Yeah, the initiative cards are just good threats that
you play them because they're really good.
Yeah, they outscale on their own, even if they kill them right away. These cards are just really good threats on their own. No reason to play bad cards around them.
Sure.
You could just play good cards around them.
100%. Speaking of initiative creatures, next one. And first one of the 4 drops is Caves of Chaos Adventurer.
This card, I was like, maybe I shouldn't be on it because it's an initiative creature, so it's like not unique, but it's still just so good.
So the math with this one is actually the same as Menkin Buu, I believe. And for that matter, Comet, you play it, and then 2 turns later, they're dead.
Yeah, it's like next turn I swing for 7. Next turn I swing for another 7 and deal you 5.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah. If they've cracked a fetch land, they're dead.
A questing beast in the 4-drop slots.
Worth the double green.
Yes.
Yep.
Another way, it's another creature that you can find that has haste off your tutors, which is the main reason it's in the deck.
Sure.
It's the best of these 4 mana 4/4 haste.
Yep.
It does so much.
Easily.
There's so many words on the card. It would take forever to read it.
Yeah,
Green's been getting so many
not.
haste threats, and like it's cool to lean into that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, Stefan, the deck that you played was all about playing a 3-drop and then playing a hasty 4-drop the turn after.
Yeah,
That's like the whole point of your deck.
Green's play patterns are gross.
Is the double green an issue? I wouldn't think that it is by turn 4. I mean, if you have 4 mana, I'm guessing you have double green.
By turn 4, it's usually not a problem. Yeah. Sometimes it is, but yeah, this is probably surprisingly one of the harder cards to cast in the deck. But by 4 mana, we're pretty.
Yeah, I can see double green being an issue on turn 3, but turn 4 it seems more likely to have double green, I think.
Yeah.
Last 2 cards in the creature spots are a Seasoned Dungeoneer and an Undermountain Adventurer.
Yeah, just do more initiative creatures. The next, these are just much better than the rest. The black ones, I'm sorry, Ravenloft Adventure, you kind of suck.
Trash.
Oh no.
No, it's hot trash.
Yeah, it's trash. The common black one is better. But even then, a 1/5 with Afflict 5.
It's 5 mana.
These cards, no, the Afflict 5 is still 4 mana, but it's still not. It doesn't have the abilities of these other ones.
Yeah. It's nothing to write home about.
You're also not a dedicated initiative deck. You don't really care that much. You just want good cards all the time, right?
Play the good ones.
Cards. Okay, we're gonna move into the sorceries here. So the first one is it's not a black, white, green, or red card. It is a Gitaxian Probe.
This is my I think hot take. I don't know how many decks should be on it, but way more than non-blue decks should play this card more often.
I mean, you're now playing a 99 card deck. There you go.
Yeah. And the information is huge.
Your percentages have just increased by 1%.
Yeah, the knowledge of the hand is also super important, especially with this kind of loose, glass cannon-y hands that you can get. If you're all in on a turn 1 Lord Skitter, if your opponent has a lightning bolt in hand, you can be oh, I'm not going to do that. And Gitaxian Probe gets you that for 2 life, and that is such a low cost that it is with this kind of deck where you're gonna have to take these risks, knowing whether to go for it or not. Especially compared to other proactive decks where your turn 1s through 3 are probably unaffected by your opponent's. Actually, if you knew what you have in your opponent's hand, it probably doesn't change a lot. This deck it actually does, because then you can play around the answers that they have and the threats that they have as well.
Yeah,
just because of the high art quality.
It's sort of like what if Street Wraith also gave you perfect information on your opponent's hand?
Yeah, I mean, we're playing it for the information. We're not playing it for it's a card in the graveyard that I can get for free. That matters with Tarmogoyf and 10th District Hero, but it's the information that's the huge part.
Yeah,
for sure.
I love that.
So yeah, we already mentioned the hand attack cards. You've got a Duress, an Inquisition of Kozilek, and a Thoughtseize. We also have a Reanimate as well as an Unearth.
Yeah, these are the 2 Reanimate cards in the deck. Used to be on Animate Dead. That one's less good in a more aggressive type deck.
Sure. And
with a deck that doesn't have an Atrox to get back.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, these cards just are so good every single time I cast them.
100%.
Reanimate, pitch Elemental, reanimate your opponent's Fury to 2-for-1 them, and get a 3/3 double striker.
Yeah, love it.
I think people are playing so much Artifact and Enchantment hate now that you play getting 2-for-1 off of or not even 2-for-1, I suppose, but playing your whole turn around reanimating something, and then your opponent's just cool, crack my Canker Bloom, destroy your Animate Dead. Goodbye, creature.
Right, they just time walk you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the -1 power matters so much more.
Oh, sure,
than you think it does.
A 1/1 Thalia with first strike is not as good.
You have a Green Sun Zenith to be able to go find any of those green creatures that are in the deck. A Prismatic Ending because that card can kill literally anything in a 4-color deck.
Yeah, you get to kill your opponent's Menkin Buu with this.
The first pointed card that we have talked about is 4th Aerolingus.
Messed up.
Yeah, this card's good. Like,
what if Fireball, but X times 2, and also you have a bunch of creatures in play? What if that?
Just playing this on turn 2 off a Dork or a Mox, and then you just take the Monarchy, and then you just win that game.
You do.
Because the Monarch scales...
At least probably 75% of the time you win that game.
Yeah, the reason why White Plume's so good is that it's a 3-drop that takes the initiative. This is a 3-drop that takes the Monarch, and it does so much more than that.
Yeah, they're not getting it back. They're not doing anything.
The last sorcery in the deck, I know you're fond of this one. It's Witherbloom Command.
This card's so good.
It's a Zoe card.
So Zoe, I'm very proud of you for just like having the hugest set of balls. Because you kept a 0-land hand backed by a
oh my god,
and a Witherbloom Command, and it paid off.
Are you kidding me?
Tell me about that hand, would you please?
So it was a Once Upon a Time Witherbloom Command, Abrupt Decay, Chrome Mox.
I think it was Inti. I think the hand had Inti in it too. I could be wrong.
Inti came later, I think.
Sure.
I think I had some, like, I think a Menkin Buu, there was like a few 4-drops in there, and then was a white card. I mean, yeah, this card just does so much that, like between Once Upon a Time and I was on the draw, so that's 6 looks. You can hit a land a lot of the time. And then if you get a fetch land off the Once Upon a Time, you're guaranteed good with the Witherbloom Command. This is not talking about the fact that when I did that play, I also killed a Mother of Runes.
You
so
sure did.
It was a 2-for-1. So.
Yeah, so this is how that worked out, right? Zoe plays the Once Upon a Time, finds a fetch land, plays the fetch land, plays the Chrome Mox, puts I don't remember what underneath it.
Abrupt Decay.
Yes, that is what you put under it. Casts the Witherbloom Command, mills 3 cards, puts the fetch land back into hand, and also kills their opponent's Mother of Runes. It was so gross.
Yeah, this card kills Moxen, Soul Rings, Renin 6s, which is a huge one. This is a way to actually kill Renin 6 pretty easily. Like, you don't have to deal with the damage. You also are drawing a land as well, so it's actually parity.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the drain effect is just a nice little, like, if you're not doing anything else with the card.
Right. It's like the shock mode of Colligan's Command or whatever.
It's
always useful.
Yeah, it just does so much on a 2-mana card that when your deck is inconsistent in a Hunter card singleton deck, having that flexibility in, like, charms are good. There just are not a lot of good charms.
Sure. Okay. Now we just have a few more cards to talk about. These Moxen, there are, 5 of them, 6 of them? So you've got the 3 pointed Moxen, Emerald, Jet, and Pearl. That makes up the rest of your 10 points. And then you also have a Mox Diamond, which pairs beautifully with a Renin 6. You have a Chrome Mox, which we just talked about. Lotus Petal, which you had mentioned earlier as another source of mana right now.
Yeah, I mean, just getting out those threats a turn early, like getting out White Plume a turn early, getting out, just getting out like a Dark Confidant on turn 1, getting out like an Inti on turn 1, just all of these things, like, you kind of have to play with the cards in the right shell to be like, oh, these cards are just amazing in a mid-range deck. So
and this 4-color, like, it's just all good cards. The more consistent hands that you have that have fast mana and let you do that basically every single game, like, the more games you're gonna win, right?
Yeah.
And then additionally, hence the turbo, yeah. Additionally, for artifacts, you have a Shadow Spear. You're not playing Urza Saga, are you? I can't remember.
No, this card's just
it's
just
good.
Okay, you heard it here, folks. Right here, Zoe is playing Shadow Spear without Urza Saga.
Yeah, this card, I mean, it makes any aggro matchup, like, not an auto win, but if you stick this on a creature, you just be like, okay, I don't care what my aggro opponent is doing now, and I'll just crack in, and then my life total stays the same and their life total goes down. That seems like a pretty good deal to me.
I agree.
Especially good with all these growth threats, because then the Shadow Spear also scales with the life gain. So if you attach to a Yara's Oathsworn, it grows every single turn. If you attach, there's so many ways to grow creatures in this deck.
Yep.
Yeah, it'll scale as your opponent tries to deal more damage to you.
Yep. Okay, so yeah, Stefan had to leave, and also I forgot to do the instance, so we are back up on the instance now. First one is not a white, green, red, or black card. It's a mental misstep.
Yeah, this card is just, it's just good. I don't know what else to say. It counters your Soul Rings, it counters your Ancestral Recalls, it counters your Ponders, Brainstorms, Preordains, it counters your even Ops. I've countered Ops with it. When my Thalia Garden of Thraben's on the stack, as my opponent's trying to look for an answer, counters Mystical Tutor, counters
gross.
Dorks, counters Lightning Bolts, counters Path.
Yeah, it counters all the best removal spells too.
Yeah, there was one point I was playing against someone and I accidentally revealed it because they like tried to snap back a Git probe by paying life for it, but they couldn't. So right. I accidentally revealed this, and then it stayed in my hand the rest of the game until they tried to swords my IR's Oathsworn that was like a 6/6 at that point, and then I misstepped it, and it was like, cool, this card's been sitting in my hand for the entire game, and it was worth it because it allows for like stack interaction that these colors don't get.
And nobody is ever expecting it from these colors.
Oh yeah. Counters a Dash Dragavan, that's a huge one.
Oh yes, that's true. It does do that as well. Next up is a Once Upon a Time. So Once Upon a Time is a card that I didn't see a ton of like a year or so ago, and lately it is crept its way into the format, and now a lot of decks are playing it. And it's like, if I always tell people this, like if you're looking at a format like Canadian Highlander, where all the cards from forever are legal, a really good place to go look for staples or like the most busted cards is like the ban lists. And Once Upon a Time is on 3 of them for a good reason.
Yeah, this card in 60 card makes decks super consistent. And this is kind of a high roll if you get the consistency, but this deck in particular, because it has a lot more of those abs and interaction tools, like the hand attack and the like all of the removal options, you're gonna often get some hands that you're not gonna have any creatures, and Once Upon a Time finds you the threats that you need. Yep. Or you're gonna have land light hands that it finds you the lands that you need.
Yep.
We were just talking about I kept a 0-lander, and all because of this card, because you used to look at, I mean, on the draw you get to look at 6 cards, and one of them has to be a land to make that hand actually be good.
Has to be a land. Yeah, it definitely lets you keep some really speculative hands, which is like the best part about the card. You've got removal in Fatal Push, Path to Exile, Swords to Plowshares, and Abrupt Decay. Just only playing the best ones. I know we had talked earlier about Lightning Bolt. I think we talked about Lightning Bolt.
Yeah, I believe so.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Lightning Bolt's a fantastic card. It's red. It's by no means better than any of the red cards I'm playing. And also, Absent has great removal already, so you don't really have to go that deep.
Yeah.
Abrupt Decay is... I'm specifically playing Abrupt Decay over Assassin's Trophy because Abrupt Decay kills most things, and also Leyline Binding is another like catch-all that I think is better than Assassin's Trophy. And this not being able to be countered is huge.
It is. I think so, yeah.
This kills your Uros, Okos, Teferis, kills your... You name it. This probably kills it, except for Menkin Buu and Comet.
It kills all of the stuff with Ward without having to pay the Ward.
That is true.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Then you've got a Legolas's Quick Reflexes.
That elf is so fast. I mean, this card is absurd. Why does it have Split Second?
Yeah,
opponents always try to counter it or try to removal spell in response, and I'm like, nope, that doesn't work. In one of my future matches, this protected a Deathrite, which was huge.
Yep, I remember that game.
Yeah. This card is... It also acts as a removal spell in addition to a protection spell.
It does.
Yeah. This card is absurd. Why did they print it? I'm not complaining.
No, I'm not either. The last instant is Eladamari's Call. Being able to find like whatever threat or like interaction, like stacks piece. I don't know what you call those. Tax creature, whatever one suits you best at any given moment. It's just super duper powerful at instant speed too.
Off mock straws, you can go turn 1 this, turn 2 white plume, and it guarantees turn 2 white plume. And often that's just good enough.
It is, yeah. I can attest to that. One last non-land card in the deck to talk about. You mentioned it a second ago. It's Leyline Binding.
Yeah, this is it's just 2 mana, hits anything. It is easy to cast, so you can cast other spells and then still hold this up.
Yep.
Even though we're a land-like deck and 4-color, it's surprisingly easy to get 4 land types because nearly every single land in the deck is a land type, except for, like, off the top of my head, like 5, which is a number, but like, still, like 5 out of 20, like there's
right.
26.
You're only gonna have one of those like by turn 5 most games on average, I think.
Yeah, and like the amount of times that I can cast this on turn 2 is a surprising amount between 2 fetches getting all the colors I need.
Whatever, yeah.
And also the deck is built so that I only need 1 pip of each color. So I'm not like, oh, I need, like, for the most part, I'm like, oh, I need to fetch awkwardly so I have
double
like,
black and double red and double green.
Yeah,
I get what you're saying.
It's just more of a, fetching with this deck is surprisingly easy. It's, do you have all 4 of your colors? If no, try to get to that. And then from there, you just have to combine every single color pairing except for red-black. And and then if you have that every single that, then it's just like
you can cast every card in your deck.
You can cast everything.
Right on. So speaking of mana, something I think is really important to talk about when we're talking about these 4-color decks is the way that this mana base is constructed. So the first thing that I want to point out, and nobody laugh, but Zoe, you're not playing any triomes.
No, they're bad. This deck, if you've been listening, this deck always wants to do something on turn 1, on turn 2, on turn 3. You never have a chance to really be like, I'm going to take a fetch off to fix my mana. If you're taking a fetch off, at this point now, it is for the Severa land to actually get advantage. Yeah. And if you ever draw a triome, you're like, why is this card in my deck?
Right.
I used to be playing a triome, and then I cut it for Once Upon a Time because I'm like, Once Upon a Time is basically a land in all these hands. Uh-huh. And I mean, yeah, it's like I'm never really fetching for the triome anyway, so why am I running it?
Sure.
Surveil lands actually give you tangible advantage when you make that decision to get a tapped land.
Yep,
and I was on 30 lands before, so I added to my land count by adding it. I didn't swap out lands.
Gotcha. You do have the black-green Surveil land. And it's just the only reason. Just the one, right?
The reason it's green-black is because those are my 2 land cyclers colors. If I didn't have that, it would probably be green-white because a lot of my, I think white is my second most color, and a lot of my black spells trend towards early because of all of the hand attack, reanimate, fatal pushes. They just, and also the 2-drops, the really good 2-drops tend to be black. Yeah. So I often don't want my top lane to be black, but since I can get it off Troll Khazad-dûm, then it makes up for it.
I get it.
Other side.
You're playing all 11 fetch lands, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Are you playing Prismatic Vista?
I am, with only 3 basics, and it has been fantastic.
Yeah, I think it's totally fine. So then, as far as the dual land situation goes, I see 1, 2.
There are, 3. I know these numbers off the top of my head. Okay, there are 6 OG duels.
Okay. So you're playing all of them that are available.
Yes. Okay. I'm playing 4 shock lands, the Abzan ones, and Stomping Ground. So
gotcha. Stomping
Ground, Temple Garden, God of the Shrine, and Overgrown Tomb.
Gotcha.
And then beyond that, I'm on Razor Verge Thicket and Underground Mortuary. Yep. Those are my other 2 dual lands. Everything else is the 3 basics: Karakas, Besage You, and Wasteland.
Yep,
which I believe that is.
Then you also have
City of Brass.
Yep, you have Mana Confluence and City of Brass, which is something that I don't see in every 3 and 4 color list, but I really, really like seeing the specifically the mana confluence, but also by an extension, City of Brass. It's so good to have all of your colors of mana in one card. Like, there's no reason
Yeah.
not to, I think.
Like, especially in this deck where, for the most part, all of my cards are single pipped. With that one land, I can pretty much cast 90% of my spells.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I get a second land, that number automatically jumps to like 95 or like 97 or whatever.
Yep.
So
yeah, and in this deck where you really want to be, coming out fast and furious, I think those City of Brass and Mana Confluence fill like the role that the Triomes would fill as far as mana fixing goes in a slower deck. Like they still fix your mana, and they also let you cast your spells the turn that you play them. So
yeah,
I think it's a decent trade-off.
And the last land in the deck that we have yet to mention is Wasteland. It is my one colorless land, and just the disruption effect of denying mana, catching your opponents when they slip. Yeah, this deck, especially when you get to the fast mana starts.
Yep.
You can leverage your fast mana and then play a Wasteland to make your opponent a turn later to their response.
Yep.
And then from there, you probably won the game because the threats just grow that fast.
Yeah,
now.
being able to capitalize on their stumble is like super duper good. Okay, I think we covered everything in the deck. So let me bring this back up so the people at home can see our faces. There we are. We're back.
We're back.
All right. So tell me about, like, what is mulliganing like with this deck? Like, do you feel like you mulligan a lot, or like you don't mulligan very often, or is it like an average amount compared to other decks? What is it like?
This deck is very aggressive with its mulligans.
Okay.
You're looking for, you're okay going down in card quality on the amount of cards in hand, because a lot of the time you're just looking for, I'm going to present a threat really quickly to kill your opponent. Yeah, you're very happy to go to 6. You can very easily kill your opponent with a 5, and sometimes you have to go to 4, but I mean, in my experience, you can usually find a good hand in the first 3.
Sure.
Even with only being on 31 lands, that's very deceptive because you're on the land cyclers, you're on dorks, you're on Once Upon a Time, you're on
or something non-land mana sources, not including the mana dorks.
Yeah, it's like there's a lot of ways to actually get your lands. The initiative creatures, if you get them out early, you have Red and 6, like you said. You have Witherbloom Command as a way to get another land.
Yep.
Just
the
all
Once
these
Upon
ways.
A Time, obviously. Yeah. Like there's so many ways to like artificially inflate that land count that it makes, again, like when we were talking about Once Upon a Time, like you can like keep some speculative hands when you have stuff like the land cyclers and Once Upon a Time in your deck. So yeah, for sure. Anything else you want to say about Turbo Blood?
Yeah, I think this deck is, I think more people should give it a try. It does take some getting used to. Even though I don't have like the hundreds of matches with this deck. I've just been playing the exact same archetype for a very long time. So I've a lot of the intricacies of this deck, like it's really hard for me to explain how to mulligan without sitting down and like showing you like 10 sample hands and being like, here's what I would keep on this amount if I was on the player draw.
Yep.
Just because there are so many ways that these cards interact with each other.
Yep.
And it's, yeah, I encourage people to try this out, and you might lose with it a lot at first, but I promise this deck has the sauce.
Yeah, I think this deck is very, very sweet, and I do actually plan to try it out at some point in time. So, Zoe, congratulations on your top 4 finish. You locked up a whole bunch of points going towards the championship at the end of the year, and you got yourself a nice dual land. What did you walk away with? Scrubland?
Yeah, Scrubland.
Hell yeah,
this is my first dual land that I own.
Excellent.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah, I definitely was not playing my best in the semifinals because I was so
it's
ecstatic.
such a long day at that point, man.
Yeah, especially after my quarterfinals against Tom Wu. He was on Slushy, and I had to mull the 4.
Yeah.
And I was so stressed out the entire game 1. And then game 2, I closed really easily due to him keeping a pretty greedy hand. and not finding his second land off a preordain. But
oh no.
I mean, I was happy to take it because I was not looking to play another long match.
100%.
But by the time I got to playing against goblins, I was just kind of, I like kept a subpar hand game one, and then from there just kind of spiraled. And Sean has a way of drawing Goblin Recruiter against me every single game we play, so I always had to deal with that.
Yeah, those goblins, they'll get you, man. Okay.
They got everyone.
They did, yes. All right, Zoe, thanks for coming on the podcast. I appreciate you joining me today to talk about Turbo Blood. For everybody at home, if you want to learn more about Canadian Highlander, there's all kinds of videos on this channel about the format that you can watch. Also, there's a link to our Patreon campaign down in the description of the video. You can go there, check out all of the extra content outside of YouTube. With that out of the way, please subscribe to the channel. Make sure you turn notifications on so that we get to annoy you every time we upload a video. And I just want to remind you that we're proud of you. Bye.